Good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Zago, the Director of Programming at the USC School of Cinematic Arts, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the opening night of a year-long celebration of the life and work of the beloved Trojan alumnus and iconic Angelino filmmaker, John Singleton. This celebration is a joint effort between the USC School of Cinematic Arts, the USC African American Cinema Society, and USC Visions and Voices, the Arts and Humanities Initiative. The Visions and Voices program acknowledges that USC was built on the sacred land of the Tongva Nation. We honor the Tongva and all indigenous people, past, present, and future, and their continued survival and contributions to our society. We also honor the legacy of the African diaspora and recognize that this country would not exist without the free, enslaved labor of Black people. We know that contemporary struggles for Black lives are connected to our history of violence and white supremacy. We share these acknowledgements to pay respect to the original caretakers of this land, to raise awareness about histories that are too often erased or forgotten, to recognize our place in this history, and to affirm our commitment to social change. Our celebration of John will encompass not just his work as a feature film writer-director, but we'll also take a look at his work as a producer and his important and enduring work in television. Our calendar of events is an evolving list of what we're planning to screen, but know that we will add events throughout the academic year that we can't announce just yet. Our panelists throughout the year will similarly comprise not just the production teams and casts of John's films, but his friends and family as well. I'd like to thank our partners at Visions and Voices, the Academy Museum, our Dean, Elizabeth Daly, plus Justin Wilson, Andrew Leist, Stacey Kravitz, Kristen Barella, Disa Philadelphia, Dan Wolf, Amelia Eichler, and all of the staff at SCA who came together to honor John. I'd also like to give special thanks to John's mother, Shelia Ward, and all of the Singleton family for their love and support of this celebration, as well as to Frank Price, Kojo Lewis, and fellow film icon and USC faculty member Robert Townsend, who will host the Q&A after the film. I'd now like to welcome Isaiah Simon, co-president of the USC African American Cinema Society, to say a few words on behalf of our AACS members, followed by School of Cinematic Arts Dean Elizabeth Daly. I also look forward to seeing many of you again in just 2 weeks for a screening of Poetic Justice on Wednesday, September 21st. Over to you, Isaiah.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you for everyone coming to our celebration of our co-founder, John Singleton, tonight. I am Isaiah Simon. I'm the co-president of the African American Cinema Society. Our mission is to highlight and promote art and artists who are invested in showcasing the complexity and sophistication of Blackness and the Black diaspora. I am especially excited to be a part of this celebration today because one of the influencers who has really shaped my life, John Singleton, inspired me to come to USC in the first place. I am a screenwriter, and I'm also a director, actor, multifaceted. But there's just something about the messages that John Singleton had and that he shared with everyone who came across his films that really touched me and many of the Black students here at USC. I want to say thank you again for coming out, and please RSVP for our other screenings, as you already know that some of the people were probably turned away today because RSVPs were full. But I just want to say thank you again, and we're actually going to be moderating a few of the Q&As and panels in the coming months, especially with Poetic Justice, who's going to be moderated by our co-president, Caitlin Chain. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our dean, and welcome.
Well, let me see if I can get this down a little. Thank you so much, Isaiah. The African American Cinema Society is really a very important part of John's legacy here at the school, and we're so happy to see it continuing to thrive. Well, first of all, I want to welcome all of you here, and thank you for being here with us. This is very personal to many of us. John spent many hours in this room. And when I came here, one of the things I asked the faculty before I agreed to come was, could I see the best piece of writing that has ever been done in the school? And I was handed Boyz in the Hood. And it was a real awakening as to the quality of the work that could come from students who were currently in school. Of course, John was unique and unusual. The retrospective of John's work has been a long time coming, thanks to COVID, and many of us have been talking about it throughout this long period. And as we come back from the pandemic and come back together, I think it's a wonderful way to reaffirm our community and celebrate the impact that the projects that start in these walls can have. John had so much impact here at the school, not only as a filmmaker, as an alum, but he was also a faculty member here for a number of semesters. And I never once called John or asked him to talk with anyone or to help that he didn't say yes. He was indeed impactful. He really helped to, we might say, reintroduce African American film to people around the world. He was one of a generation of filmmakers who also fought to control their vision because John's stories were personal. They were about relationships that develop among family members and the people who are like family during both endearing times and many embattling times. They were certainly about the struggle of generations of Black Americans, whether they were established professionals trying to hang on to the town they built in Rosewood, young people struggling to define love and companionship and poetic justice in Baby Boy, or a protector accepting his legacy in Shaft. And many of his films were indeed a love letter to Los Angeles, specifically South Los Angeles. The film that we're about to see tonight is all of those things, I think. Boyz in the Hood is now deservedly considered a classic of American cinema. It's enshrined at the Library of Congress and indeed enshrined in our hearts here, for its journey indeed began in a writing class. Following the film tonight, we're going to hear from some people who helped John realize this masterpiece. Frank Price, who was president of Columbia Pictures and gave the green light not only to the film, but to John as its director. Kojo Lewis, the location manager of the film, and John's mother, Shelia Ward. And of course, our moderator, Robert Townsend, who in addition, of course, to being a legendary filmmaker, is most important to me, a member of our full-time tenured faculty. And I just want to thank all of you for joining me now. Let's give them a very warm welcome for being here with us. And I want to do a special welcome to the members of John's family who are here tonight, including his children. And of course, to the students in attendance who are indeed the recipients of the John Singleton Scholarship for the Arts here at USC. Would you guys stand up? I know you're here in the audience. And I know how proud of you John would be. So I'm not going to take any more time. I know you're eager to see the film again on the big screen, so I'm going to hand this back over to Alex. And please enjoy the evening, and we'll have a wonderful panel.
Good evening, good evening. Round of applause for Boyz in the Hood. Come on, stand up, John Singleton. Stand up, come on guys, come on. Honor this filmmaker, a masterpiece, a work of art, a masterpiece. Mr. John Singleton, Please, we'll keep the applause going. Let's bring up to the stage right now John's mother. Please come on up, come on up. Mrs. Ward, please come on up. Keep it going for Mr. Frank Price. And please keep it going for Mr. Kojo Lewis. few things. First, I want to say thank you for you guys being here. You could be any place on the planet, and you chose to be here to honor, you know, Mr. Singleton. So I thank you for that, your time, your patience to be here. I'd like to thank everybody from my USC family, all the faculty, everybody that put this year-long celebration for Mr. Singleton together, especially Dean Daly. God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I haven't seen the film in years, and I gotta say, you know, it holds up. I remember the very first time I saw it, I had all these feelings. I'm full of emotion right now, and it is so well written. There are layers and layers and themes and stories and different elements, and he was able to compact all of that into this one film, and it holds up. So, Mama, I'm gonna start with you first. I hate to, you know, see you again under this circumstance because the man was a genius and gone too soon, and I have 4 children, and I never want to see any of them go, and so I appreciate you being here, you know, to honor him, but I hate under these circumstances. So first, I want to ask you, where does this genius come from? What did you feed him? What was you feeding? What was you feeding this baby boy?
Is this on?
It's on. So give me the beginnings of John Singleton, this little baby. Where did this come from?
Well, I met John Singleton at John Wesley Hospital, not yet a few blocks from here. John Wesley Hospital is no longer a building, so I like to say that. I fed him my mind.
Oh, beautiful.
I fed him my energy, and I fed him my thoughts on what could happen if I didn't feed him.
So you're furious. You're furious, Styles. There's a lot of furious, because here's what because in the audience are a lot of young filmmakers and stuff, and sometimes my students, they're being nurtured by their parents, and sometimes their parents are like, why are you in film school? And they've got these voices and things they want to say and trying to get it out, and you planted fertile soil for this man to be born. So you were constantly speaking life into him even when he was little?
I think so. In fact, I know so. My mother was a storyteller, Miss Audrey, and she'd sit around with her friends and tell stories and laugh, and I could visualize what they were talking about, the adults in the room. And I thought that was always important to do, is to bring visual process to the words that you speak. We would ride around at times to whatever destination, and I wanted to humor him. So I'd see someone in a pink suit, white shoes, and I put words to what they were thinking and saying. I wanted him to see what a person like the pursuit like that would think in my mind.
Yes.
Yeah. But let me say this before I go any further. Those people on that side of the room, those are John Singleton's people. He always wanted to hear people respond to his stories. And those people that sat on that side of the room, many people have seen it, they were feeding him. That's the kind of energy that he wanted to always possess, is to bring stories that people would respond to by laughter, the sadness, or what have you.
When was the first time you knew he had this ability to write? How old was he?
Well, before he wrote, he made stories in the dictionaries we had. Fingered through them, wrote or drew pictures, and he thumbed through them just like you do in a cartoon. And those were the first stories. They weren't words. They were just a character moving.
Do you remember anything in particular? Like
No, but I still have the dictionary.
You still have the dictionary.
In fact, that's the gift that I give to most people when they were younger. When people were younger and I wanted to inspire people, the first thing I would want to give someone is a dictionary.
So here's my question for you. The birth of a filmmaker. When did he get bitten by the bug?
They developed. There's no such thing as birth. They developed. I think in his case, I think he developed into filmmaking. But he would tell you, and many people who have seen interviews will note that he loved film through his father. This story is his father, a relationship of myself and his father. It's bigger than just,
Was the dynamic like that?
Well, Not that
Were you Angela Bassett?
Angela Bassett was me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So because, you know, as artists, we want to create authentic stories that tell the truth. And there was such a truth between the relationship between the mother and the father. So that did mirror your relationship with your husband, your
He wasn't my husband. I make certain that people know that. He was not my husband. I was very lucky not to have executed the marriage after the engagement. Very lucky.
Okay.
I have to be honest.
No. I love your honesty. No. This is, you know, here's the thing. Tonight we've looked at a masterpiece. And so when we're looking at this canvas and this tapestry and how he painted from real life.
Yeah, he did. In fact, well, there was a scene in the movie that we can credit Stephanie Elaine with requesting after Mr. Price greenlit the movie. There were still some things that needed to be flushed out. And one thing that Stephanie requested, and maybe some of the other producers, you might remember that, she wanted to have a dialogue between the mother and father, because in many cases that people didn't see, but in many cases one could not realize or understand why a woman would allow the father of the child to raise them. This is real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is real. But it existed because I believed that there should be two people in a marriage, or in a relationship, because we didn't marry, I had to keep saying that.
The relationship, yes.
Stephanie Elaine asked him to write a scene between the father and the mother, and that's what you saw in that cafe. That was an added scene.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna go to Mr. Price. So, you know, first I want to say something to you, because I want to talk about the journey, but one of my mentors was Sidney Poitier. And when I first got to Hollywood, and after I did my first film, the only person I wanted to meet in Hollywood was Mr. Poitier. So he agreed to meet with me at the Polo Lounge in Beverly Hills. So we met, and the first thing, I was nervous, and he said, meet me there at 4:30. I was there at 12 o'clock. I wasn't gonna miss a second. And the first thing I asked him, I said, how did you get to have dignity in the 50s? I said, you were the only man of color that I saw that had this dignity. And he says, well, there were these men that wanted to change what was going on, and they knew what was right and what was wrong. And he started naming Stanley Kramer, and then he said Norman Jewison, and he named all these people. I consider you one of those gentlemen. Watching this movie tonight, to greenlight this picture, you had to be fearless, because it's saying some real deep stuff on so many levels. So my first question for you, sir, tell me about the journey to first finding the script and when you first read the script.
I had not been running a studio for a short time, and they'd asked me to come back and head Columbia Pictures for the second time. So I had staff meetings, and after the first couple of weeks, Amy Pascal and Stephanie Elaine asked to meet me on Friday afternoon, and they came to me with the script. And I knew that something unusual was going on, because normally we had a Friday morning staff meeting, and the weekend reading list would be worked out as all the creative people in the room would give their opinions and that. And so I'd go home with a short list. And so the fact that they wanted to meet privately with me meant that they didn't want the script to undergo criticism in the morning meeting. So the script had been around town as a writing sample, and there were two problems with it. One of which is that it was considered to be a very limited picture of a ghetto-ish picture, so there wouldn't be a broad audience for it. And the other was that this 21-year-old guy wanted to direct it. So those were the killers. So, but anyway, Amy and Stephanie said how much they liked the script and wanted me to read it. So I took it home over the weekend and I read it. And I was bowled over. I said, this is incredible. So, and I was analyzing the script on its appeal, and I thought, I don't know why it would be limited. What went through my mind, I'd seen Bicycle Thief when I was fairly young, and I wasn't Italian. I hadn't lived in Rome, but I was able to identify with all these people that were different from me. So I thought, why couldn't broad audiences in the United States identify with this? This is a wonderful view into the tragedy of that community. So I thought, well, it's a possibility. So on Monday, I said to Amy and Stephanie, have him come in, I want to talk to him. So John came in, and I questioned him on a variety of things, one of which was how would he handle the helicopter, the night shots, and so on. And he said, well, I don't need a helicopter. I can handle that with sound and lights. And I said, well, he thinks practically. So that's a good point in his favor. So I then asked him about casting it, who would he put in? And I didn't know the names of the people. So I then said to our staff, give him a camera and some film and let him do some tests on some of these people and bring that back in. So he did. He came back in with the tests, and we put it on a television screen. And the first actor that showed up there was Ice Cube, and he just jumped off the screen. My God, I wasn't familiar with him, and he was just terrific. So, and then, it was Cuba Gooding, it was Lawrence Fishburne. So, Morris Chestnut, I was thinking, this guy has great casting taste. So that made me feel that he could direct it. I come from a writing background, so frankly, I feel anybody who can write all those scenes ought to be able to direct all those scenes.
He knows that world. He really knew the world. So here's a question I have for you. So you're new to the studio. You've greenlit some big pictures. I mean, Ghostbusters was one of yours, and these movies, Tootsie. Now my question is, did you ever think when you were greenlighting this picture that you would get any backlash? Because it's saying a lot of things, that no one was saying at the time. And there's only so many slots to greenlight pictures. So how many movies were you greenlighting a year when you were running the studio? Maybe 15, 12, 15?
You can only do 12 to 20.
12 to 20.
If you got flops, you can do 20.
So did you ever think that you could be risking your career, because if that movie didn't do well, and Ice Cube happened to be part of NWA that was fuck the police and all of that, could you take a hit? Did you think about that at all?
I did, and one of the things I did, because it happens that Sidney Poitier has been a very good friend of mine for years. So, and I thought it's possible that there are some landmines here that I don't know about, since I don't know the community so well. So I asked Sidney if he would read it. And so Sidney did, and I'm sure he explored it in depth, and he got back to me and said, no problem. So.
Wow. Wow. No, I mean, because I just think it takes, you know in Hollywood it takes courage to do something that no one else is willing to do. So I just applaud you for that round of applause there. I'm going to go to the gentleman on the end. This is Kojo Lewis. He is a location scout. He will find the locations. I've worked with him on the 5 Heartbeats. He found all the locations there. We recently worked on a documentary for Charles Burnett, Academy Award-winning Charles Burnett, and we went into the hood. And the thing about this gentleman right here is that he's fearless, you know. There could be 15 gangbangers over there with guns and knives, and he's like, hey, can y'all turn it down? We're trying to shoot. We're trying to shoot. We want to use this location. He will go in anywhere, any place. I want to talk about the film gets greenlit, and then John reaches out to you, or his team reaches out to you. Tell me about John's vision and the locations that he wanted to scout, and what was that like?
First, a quick story. I get called at 12:15 a.m. in the morning. I had met John. I was filming on a set. He hadn't started here at USC, but he had just been, I guess, got his scholarship or whatever to be here. And all of a sudden, he's standing next to me on the set, and we're filming. And he says, hey, how you doing? Fine, I'm John Singleton. Hey, how are you, Kojo Lewis? What do you do? I'm a location manager. Oh, he says, so what's that? And we walked around the set for that hour and a half. And he's a very intelligent young man. You pick up on certain things about people, regardless of age, around the film industry. And I gave him a card. I said, look, anything you need, you want to come visit set, whatever I can help you with, just give me a call. So 12:15 a.m., I get a call. Kojo, yeah, it's me, John. Hey, John, how you doing? You got to get up here right now. Where, John? I'm in a hotel. I just got greenlit on my film. You got to read it right now. I travel up to the hotel. It's about 1 in the morning now. I had just finished a 16-hour day shoot. Something I was on. And I said, okay, John, this is great. Let me read it. I'll call you in the morning. No, you gotta read it right now. I sat there and read that whole script. And at the end of it, I said to John, you don't even know what this is going to be for you. This is something which transcends decades. It transcends things like some of the ignorances of the facts that we do not communicate enough with one another to even know one another. And the assumptions and all of the privileges and all that crap. And here he was, and it's like, you're gonna do my film. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it, right? Yes, John, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. This is really important, really important. And I think I got to leave about 3:30 in the morning. And
So you read the whole script that night?
I read the script right there. He was not going to allow me to move until I read the script. So that was my original meeting, second meeting with John after all this time. And this film, as many millions of people have now seen, was a time piece, as you were just relating to, that we dealt with a Hollywood situation, as John and I are talking next couple of days, where Hollywood believed that when you crossed Olympic Boulevard, you were in Compton, California. I want you to try to visualize this if you're familiar with the miles between. To think that, and literally, I've stood in front of my different members of the behind-the-scenes crews, like, I'm not going into there, you know, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're going there to do this film. And so if you want to be part of it, you will be there. And if you do not, you'll be replaced. They can replace just about anyone. I've seen directors replaced in Hollywood in a half hour. 1.5 hour. Yeah. And so it was, for me, I mean, I had had many privileges early. I started in episodics, and I had worked with Mr. T and the A-teams and, you know, and all of that, and that was great. But this film represented a timepiece that people had to know about. They had to realize that there's human beings that live in our neighborhoods, and you don't know where they are, and you have not cared. But if you understood what you just saw there, here's John making me read this script, and I realized, holy cow, this is the masterpiece we talk about.
Yes.
And that's what he brought to
No, you know, when I was watching it, I was thinking, we don't have movies right now that are layered on this level and have, you know, discussions. So I'm going to throw a question to the whole panel. As he was making the film, tell me what your conversation was at different stages with, as he was making this movie. I mean, how was he happy, angst? Was he nervous? Was he, you know, what was his vibe? I'm just curious.
Well, before he made the film, he said that he was not going to let anyone else direct the film because Mom, what they'll do is buy it and they will make it a welfare mom. That's the first thing. So he had an envision, and I keep thanking Mr. Price for allowing him to have his own vision. I think the next thing was he said to me, in some place I want everyone to know, on 43rd Street, no, Degnan off of 43rd, is where his production office was. It is now a parking lot. The building that he used, you probably found it,
Yes.
Marla Gibbs owned.
The Vision Complex.
No, everybody thinks it's the Vision Complex, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It
And
was
the-
a freestanding building, two businesses in from the corner. It's no longer there. But he chose to have a production office there. It is actually a parking lot now, and it is not the Vision Theater. It was not the Vision Theater at all. So,
But I had a question for you. So your mindset, because it starts with you, because you got this little baby and you're planting these seeds. Why was it in, you know, like you say, your family, you come from a family of storytellers.
yeah.
Why was it so important to you to instill all of these thoughts and things into this little baby? You know, what can you say? Just play, just have a good time.
Well, John came to be a filmmaker. He wanted to be a veterinarian, and when he wanted to be a veterinarian, I bought books on veterinarian, you know, being a veterinarian. He wanted to be in computers, and I bought books on that. So when they move, you move with them.
Ah.
And that's what I did. Whatever he wanted to do, there was no such thing as you can't do it, because you imagined it, you can do it. So when you say the baby, he evolved into that.
So let me ask you a question. You were never, because some parents are concerned. It's like, how are you going to make a living? You want to be a filmmaker. What did you say to him? I mean, it's all love.
It's all love, and it's all wanting to live that way myself. If you live that way yourself, or try to live that way, I'm more conservative. He's always said that I'm quite conservative. But I think it's very interesting to see a child grow and move into different directions. Okay, you want to do this now? Okay. I have people in the back of the room that are doing that with their children, you know, now. Because you just, okay, you want to go that way? You want to go that way. But I understand there's a mindset from a lot of people who tell you, you know, they ain't going to let us. You know how they treat us. Who's they?
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. Mr. Price, I want to ask you a question. Did you go to the set a lot?
No.
You were running the studio. No, wait. I'm not going over there. I'm not going down that far. No, that's not what he meant. Come on, he's running the studio. Oh, your mic, please, your mic.
If I have to go to the set, it means something's wrong. And
So I guess my real question is, do you remember the first time you saw the movie? Was it a test screening or was it a private screening for you? The first time you saw the movie.
we left out some important stuff before we got to greenlight.
Okay.
Because I had said I would make it for $4 million. We had made Blue Lagoon for $4 million. I think I had Karate Kid for.
Oh, that's right, Karate Kid, the very first one, John Avildsen.
But the production department worked with it. Oh, the other thing I said was, we need the right producer because I want someone who is going to not impose his own vision on this. I want John's vision. And that means, and one of the reasons I went for Steve Nicolaitis is that he had worked with Rob Reiner, and I knew he was accustomed to achieving somebody else's vision. So we made that deal. They came back to me and said that they couldn't make it the budget for $4 million and basically because of unions in LA. That if we want to make it for $4 million, we would have to go to Texas. And it wouldn't be the same picture. So I said, give me a budget for what we can do it for in LA then, and which was $6 million. And I think that was at the point that we locked it in and said we're doing it. So the key thing was, though, that the question, $6 million, you're right, if you miss with a picture, if you're head of the studio and you do a picture with no names in it, which everybody else in town considered crazy, you know, you wouldn't do that picture. That's the kind of picture that can lose you your job. So I was totally confident that it would work. But I knew that we had to come up with the method of getting the attention of the white audience to this picture. I knew that if they would see it, they would be taken with it. They would like it. But getting them in the door was the question. How did we do that? So I had a very good marketing guy, my right-hand guy, Marvin Antonowski, who came up with the idea of taking it to the Cannes Film Festival. And that would give it a certain cachet.
Right.
Not many ghetto pictures are going to Cannes. So,
Right.
Nope.
So we did go to Cannes, and we did various things. We got it in not in actual competition, but in, a director's competition. So our marketing people rented billboards before we went there, and as we arrived, the billboards had graffiti on them. The French hadn't seen this kind of graffiti before. we flew over Ice Cube and his group and had a concert that invited all the French to. So we became the talk of the festival, in spite of the fact that we weren't one of the main figures. And the French loved the Ice Cube concert. And it was a ball. So then we had a 700-seat theater that was filled when we were screening Boyz in the Hood, and there were about 700 people outside waiting to get in. So we had to schedule a special screening for them later.
So it was really the Cannes Film Festival that jump-started the whole momentum for Boyz in the Hood.
That was what gave us an image. And Roger Ebert,
Yes.
we screened it for him, and he wrote a love letter. We had mixed reviews in general. There were some people who were too dumb to see what a great picture it was. So there's always that problem, but Roger saw it. And so we used that one review everywhere. And
No, Roger Ebert was a beautiful man. He was he championed a lot of filmmakers of color. He was a beautiful man. So his glowing review you used to.
we had that. We had the Cannes Film Festival. We had an aura about it. We had created something. Now, we also did all kinds of test screenings to try to find out what different audiences thought. I think we tested in Chicago. We'd be white audiences, black audiences, female audiences, male audiences, very young audiences, just getting
Feedback.
trying to make sure that we could get what we needed to do.
Did it change the cut in any way?
No, but we learned a lot in marketing. Because that's sometimes why you're doing some of that screening. It's not only to cut the picture in various ways, but to find out what problems you have in marketing. For instance, we found that black women had a very more tolerant view of violence in the picture than white women did. So we had to be careful in our advertising that way.
So you know what? Because I want to open it up to questions right now. The microphone is over there because there's student filmmakers here, and I would encourage those that have questions, please join us at the mic over here. I know there's writers, directors, producers. Come on, guys. Ask some questions while we have this talented group of people up here to talk about the legacy of John Singleton. Anybody, please do not be shy. This is your time. This is a moment in history that we're honoring the legend of John Singleton. I see a question over there, and whoever you want to answer the question or who you want to address, what's your name, and are you a student here?
Yes, I'm MJ. I'm a film production student, freshman undergrad, and thank you all for being here. Ms. Ward, specifically, one of the things that's most profound to me in this film is how Black women are portrayed. And coming from a low-income Black neighborhood myself, I think that like this idea of the strong Black like mother figure really is a backbone of the community. How much of that is John's vision? Was any of that sort of cut or changed for, I guess, a mass audience? And how much of that can you take credit for, I guess?
Well, I don't take credit for Miss Baker at all, because I don't believe in speaking to your children in that way. John had a friend who lived across the street from his father when he lived with his father. And while Doughboy is the character, the words are Doughboy's mother. And he heard this woman, while he was living with his father, going across to his best friend's house, speak to her only son in such a way. He made that woman have two children, one good son, one bad son, but neither one of them were really bad, if you really think about it. They weren't bad. Doughboy, to me, in a way, up until a certain point, is a hero. He's a hero for even surviving the verbal abuse, you know?
Thank you, thank you. Next question, please. Next question. Thank you so much for your question. Yes, and your name, please.
Hi, my name is Maria Malat. I'm a BCA major, majoring business and film, and my question is in terms of a woman of color wanting to go into more screenwriting, what is your greatest advice both as the CEO of Columbia Pictures in greenlighting this film, and we all have seen the film, and as a mother, I come from immigrant parents, and one of the biggest things my father's always told me is to keep on writing. What would you kind of say to those who are in the way, sort of their parents' investment in their way of getting out of the struggle and getting out of those low-income areas?
For you, Mr. Price, I'll let you answer.
Since I have hearing aids, could you summarize the question?
The question was basically, what would you say to a woman of color that wants to be a writer now at this time? What would you say to that woman as a woman of color to write this stuff? What would you say?
I think it's a great time. Doors are open, which years ago were certainly closed. But if you've got the talent or determination, and that frankly sometimes I think determination may be even more important than talent. That I've seen writers with talent that wouldn't work hard or would get discouraged with one turn down or so, fall by the wayside. And I've seen others who had fairly mediocre talent turn into pretty good writers by the time they had done 20 scripts. So, but to your question, the door's wide open right now.
Thank you so much. Next person, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Richard Heredia Arriaga, alumni. My question is for Ms. Ward. I met John Singleton twice here as a student at USC, and the last time I met him was actually at this event 5 years ago, and I asked him shortly after Boyz in the Hood, because he had so much success at 24, becoming the first director since Orson Welles was nominated for Best Director. And I asked him, did you feel any pressure? And how did you, what was that feeling like? And he said, that's a good question, number one. And then he said, of course I felt the pressure, but what did I do? You prepare and you go to work. So my question to you was, during this time after achieving the success and then the subsequent films, can you just speak on kind of John's mood and how it was and how that whole kind of the success and everything affected him during this time period?
Well, firstly, you go wild in the beginning when people love you. But I liken something to a poem called If. And disaster and success are both imposters. And there's a way to read that script, that play, that poem If. So they're both imposters. And once you realize that when you come up, you're feeling a certain way, and when you go down, you're feeling a different way, they're both not important to what you feel in your heart about who you are as a person. It is difficult to be in this business. It is difficult to stay in this business, and it's difficult to hear no's. I, in my heart, listened to him late at night on the phone talk about the pitches and the no's and the disses. And I used myself as a person to just hear that and see if I can impart something to keep him going. And that's, you might surround yourself with people, you might talk to yourself a little more and not speak to other people about what you're going to do, but tell people what you just did.
Real talk. Thank you. Next question, and that's going to be our last lady on the back end there, because I know it's been a long night already. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jonna Lambert. I'm a first-year MFA student in the TV and film production program. I have a question about I'm a black woman, obviously. And the thing about being a black woman in this industry, I've already kind of accepted that things are going to be difficult in terms of sticking to authenticity in my voice and having agency over it. So my question to you is, what advice do you have for somebody who wants to fight for their voice and for their vision and to keep it true to them?
You know what I would say. I'll weigh in on this as well. I think a lot of times, right now is a different time. Back in the olden days when we shot with film, there were so many things that could stop you from giving birth to your baby. What I say to a lot of my students a lot of times is that there's nothing to stop you. You could shoot a film with an iPhone. It's all about writing and having a circle of people around you that will tell you the truth. It's like steel sharpens steel. As you're hearing, John's mother speak, it's coming. John came from this well, and she has a lot of knowledge. And so he tapped into his mother and the world around him. But I just think for you, because a lot of times the only thing that's going to stop this generation of filmmakers is fear.
Yeah.
It's really fear. I mean, I was talking the other day to my students, and I said, you got so many distractions with social media and Twitter and Instagram and all of that, where we just had the television that was a distraction. You've got all these things that are making you compare yourself to other people. And part of it is that if you can just run your race and stay focused so that you set guidelines. We all have 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours, I have 24 hours. Now, if you can manage that time rather than waste 3 hours over here or 2 hours over there or gossiping or being jealous, if you are true to who you are, you will win. So it's like, yes, you're learning everything here, but a lot of my students, they've gotten the golden ticket to be, to be here, and they don't understand they have the golden ticket. And because you have the golden ticket, you should do your classes and then run home and then work on your other project. So during the holidays, shoot a film, shoot something. Don't go, well, I don't have any money. It's not really about money. It's really not. It's like if people are really dedicated to their craft, they'll do it for a sandwich. And you got to find the right people. Next person, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That was good.
Hello, my name is Peyton Mack. I'm a first-year MFA production student from Houston, Texas. And as all of you have had a step in the film industry, I was wondering, how would you say, well, let me rephrase that. In the industry, there's a lot of representation, but half of that representation is either through some sort of colorism or trauma or things like that. And as people in the industry, I was wondering, how do you fight to get your story out there that's probably not based in that and isn't based in colorism? Because there is a lot of representation, but there are a lot of stories that kind of dig into a lot of things that we fight day to day, and I was wondering, how would you approach that as a newcomer in this age of social media, constantly comparing yourself to other people?
Well, I mean, the only thing that I would say to you is that we're here honoring Mr. John Singleton, and he was a man with a singular voice and was true to his voice. Yes, Ma? He was. I mean, and so I just think that it's really about. It's like having blinders on. I'm going to win, what is your mantra? And if you've got negative people around you, the only thing that's going to stop you from living your dreams is like who you share your dreams with. You got to be careful who you share your dreams with. Like my friends call them frenemies.
Yes.
A lot of the students, my trio mates and all of that, they have, frenemies. And they like each other and they hate each other. Yeah. And I say to them, you never know who you're sitting next to, be nice. I read the journals and they're like mean to each other and they put the smile on, like, I've been celebrity a long time and so I get smiling faces all the time. Yeah. I can't tell anymore. And I say to my students, you can smile in front of me, but eventually it's going to catch up with you. I mean, how did John live his life? Give me your thoughts on.
For one thing, I have to tell you, you're going to have to formulate that question a little bit better. I'm going to give you some advice on that.
Come on, Mama, come on now.
No, you really do. But I know you have a good question in there, so I can't dissect which one it is. But to his point, I never believed that you tell anyone everything. Now, John did do his pitches with other people, and to nauseam to some people, oh yeah, he's telling me about this project and all. I just believe that you got to do it a little and work it a little and talk to as few people as you can until you get a step up higher in whatever the project you're writing on is. But you got to believe only in you. Nobody's going to believe in you. You have to be your own best friend. Really, truly, you do.
And I can also tell you from John's standpoint, because we spent many days riding around while we were looking at locations, and the decisions and things that are made by him were fearless. For the times that this film was done, circumstances in LA, we were shooting in blue territories, and we were shooting red scenes. We were shooting in red territories and shooting blue scenes. And that continued not only in John, it continued for many years, even through a film, Colors, some of you might have seen. What takes place out there every day that would come to John were all of the insiders, the crew members. John, we've got a problem here. You can't do this. We got to do this. John basically had a film to do. And I remember one day we were in a place called the Jungle. If many of you saw Training Day with Denzel Washington, part of that was filmed in the Jungle. And we were approached on that day with, hey, what the F is going on here? Like, why are we the bad guys? You've been out in Inglewood, and we're the bad guys. Now you're here, and we're the bad guys. What's that shit about? And John said, I haven't got time for that. I'm a filmmaker, and I've got a film that I've got to make. And so if you don't understand it, why don't you wait until you see it? And then if you have a problem with it. And I used to sit and just look at him some days. And it takes guts to be in Hollywood this many years ago. Boyz in the Hood was the first film that had 95% of the keys running departments that were all minorities. First time ever in Hollywood. Something people don't seem to know about. This is very, very, very important with the times. It's not all about the beauty. There's beauty in what we saw here. There's beauty in what we're talking about. But there's that direction for you. I have a friend who says, travel at the speed of thought. That person has been on more background recordings for most music from Motown all the way through the history of music. He also wrote a thing called Heard It Through the Grapevine. Just happens to be one of the most re-recorded songs in history. Travel at the speed of your thought.
Thank you. Next person, next person. Here we go. We're down to the stretch, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to say goodnight. We're going to take the final four. Here we go. Yes.
Hello, my name is Corey Gift. I'm a third-year theater major with an emphasis in acting and minoring in screenwriting. And my question for you guys was, I know it was John Singleton who chose the cast, but what was it that you guys saw in it on the screen that made them really stand out from an actor's perspective?
Well, I can, from my perspective, but I'll let you weigh in. You know, just as pure film people, what did you see? What did you enjoy about these performances, Mr. Price?
You mean when I saw the cast, or actually?
When you saw the test with the actors that he had cast.
Oh, well, film does great things for some people, and it subtracts from other people. And when you see a character that dominates, pardon me, I keep forgetting. Film does add a great deal to some people that are gifted that way, and it subtracts from others. There's an actor named John Gavin who was charming, handsome, and personable, and with humor in person. And the minute the camera rolled, he was a stiff. And they kept putting him in one picture after another. And he never became a star. He was, it just didn't favor him. Whereas when I saw Ice Cube, I thought, wow, this is a star. This guy has it. So when I saw Larry Fishburne, who changed his name to Lawrence later, but
Yes.
at the time of the picture it was Larry. Larry and Cuba did a picture at an HBO motion picture for me. Tuskegee Airmen for me. So, they were stars clearly in this picture, and all of these people went on. John had an incredible eye.
I was gonna, here, from my point of view, John had what we call laser focus, and laser focus means you cast everyone that is exactly right for the part, and they all became stars, but he found, I just finished directing Best Man Final Chapters in New York, and I work with everybody here. And we were on set talking about John because they were like Morris Chestnut and Nia, and they were like, we were babies and we were da-da-da-da. And they were talking about how he allowed them to exercise their muscles because this material is so well written, they weren't getting this kind of material. So part of the casting is that you're not gonna be right for everything, but when you are right for that particular part, like there's only one Furious Styles. That was, Doughboy. Even the young actor who played Trey when he was young.
Yeah.
That boy had charisma. I mean, he should still, that's the sad part. He should still be acting. That boy has something very special. Yeah. But again, that was John's eye. Next question, please. And I'm here because I know the crowd is like, we got to go, Rob. We got to go to the bathroom.
Hello, my name is Alexander McDaniel. I'm a 14-year-old boy. I'm in high school in 10th grade, but I'm in dual enrollment with Valley College, and I'm majoring in cinematic arts production, and I hope I can transfer here. So just to let you know, since I just came back from the school, if you see this shirt, I root for USC. I go to the...
Thank you. I was concerned.
But I was asking, this is mostly for Frank. Oh. This is mostly for Frank, but other panelists can also answer this. What do you like?
Mr. Price, too.
Mr. Price.
Respect.
Mr. Price.
Mr.
Sorry.
Price.
Yes. Mr. Price. But I know this was touched on a little earlier, but what makes you exactly want to be a part of a film? I know like celebrities and amount of money you can make is a big important factor in Hollywood right now. But I just want to know, is if you read the script, just what makes you want to give hope into certain movies and makes you want to be a part of it? And that's for all the panelists, if you want to answer.
So Mr. Price, why would you greenlight a movie? I guess that's the real question. What touches you to make a picture a greenlit?
Basically, when I'm reading a script and considering it, or when I used to do that, on a movie, my first question to myself, was, what's it about? Is this something that will grab an audience? Then, who's doing it? That would be who's writing it, who's directing it. And, how good is that writer? How good is the director? Then the next consideration in my mind was, who would the stars be? Who can you cast in it? And the fourth consideration, finally, was if you add those three up, how much does it cost? And when I made Ghostbusters, the company didn't want to do it because it cost $27 million, and no comedy had been made that cost that much. So they felt that it was a stupid idea. So, and then they thanked me after I made it. So,
Question. I got a question for you, Tootsie, Sidney Pollack. Who came up with that Larry Gilbert. He wrote the script. Who?
Actually, Tootsie has an interesting history because most of the script was written by a Greek playwright, Menander, 2,500 years ago. And it was stolen by Plautus, a Roman writer. And then a television writer, pardon me, lifted it all, wrote a bad script, and the script kicked around town for a long time. And Dustin Hoffman came up with it, and he and his agent came to me, and he had a bad writer that he was working with, but I financed. I think Paramount had $500,000 against the script, and I bought it out of Paramount, and financed Dustin and his writer for about a year. And one day Dustin came in and said, it doesn't work, we can't make this work. So I was desperate because I'd spent a lot of money on this, and I got Larry Gelbart to do a draft. And that was the draft that kept Dustin in it. But Dustin then got a director that had a bad drug problem, and he wanted to bring him in as director. And I finally got rid of that director, but I had to do it carefully so I didn't get rid of Dustin too. But I sent the script to Sidney Pollack. And Sidney and I starred in Westerns together at Universal, so we knew each other well. So he said to me, Frank, why are you sending me a comedy? I've never done a comedy before. And I said, Dustin, read it, and not Dustin, Sidney, read it, and you'll find it's not, I wouldn't want a normal comedy director on it. It takes something unusual, and I think you've got it. So anyway, he took about a week, and he finally came back and said he would do it. So
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. One of my favorite movies, next question, families in the house, family.
I don't really have a question, it's more or less commentary. And, you know, I think, Mr. Townsend, you said something. I'm always passing your office, by the way. I did the School of Cinematic Arts. Now I'm EMBA and a John Singleton
Congratulations,
scholar.
congratulations.
Thank you. You know, and you said something about this wave of emotion that you felt after watching the movie. And I felt the same thing because I've witnessed it. And so I don't look at this as a film per se, but as a documentary, you know? And I look at it like John was a witness. He was a witness. And what he put on screen was something that I was just telling your family this. He immortalized that consciousness and that what he witnessed, which was so real and raw, you know, and it goes into that fearlessness you were talking about. And I think even you at one point during the memorial, you said something about John's fearlessness and about how he walked in with his brands on. You know, he walked in, he had his own brands on his hat, on his jacket, stuff like that, right? And all that comes down to you guys all having a belief in John. You know, and it starts with you. And I talked to you earlier, and I resulted in tears. And the whole time you were talking, I was in tears. Because you can see that came from John. Like you imparted all that into John, and you can feel it. And when you said that stuff about him coming up to you, and you noticed that he was really, really inquisitive, and you could see that. Talking to her earlier, I can hear John in that right there. And so it's fascinating that you noticed that. You know, you believed in him, and you greenlit the picture. Thank you daily. Dean Daly, the script came across your desk. You saw it, you believed in it, and that's the reason he was here. And it you know, it was passed on. So, like, thank you so much for what you did. And thank you so much for what you've been imparting into the students and what you imparted into other filmmakers like me who watch you and want to model you. And how I want to model John. I love what you guys have done and what you guys have brought to cinema, you know, because it's raw, it's not contrived. And I think one thing that John said that really hits to your core and what you imparted in him is that he said in Boyz in the Hood, all of the female characters were three-dimensional. And that was powerful because what he's ultimately saying is like, look, we're not one-dimension caricatures here.
Yes.
You know, we're more than that. He even gave Ice Cube 3 dimensions. You see? And we were talking earlier, right? You know, the entire family is multi-dimensional. You guys embrace others and you give back, and thank you so much for that belief and so much of what you've done to allow this to happen.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Final question, guys. Final question. Here we go.
Good evening. My name is Savannah Tony. I'm a BA film production major. It's my senior year, and I have a question for you, Ms. Ward. I'm blessed to have come from and experienced a loving Black system and support system from my parents with roots in South Carolina and Alabama. And we've both, and as parents and hearing from them that they've experienced different comments and negative opinions about my career choices and what I wanted to pursue. And I was listening to what you were saying in terms of moving with your child and what helps you to understand and then like realize that, okay, this is it. I think this is definitely dead set what he wants to do.
Well, he made changes, and it just so happens he was grown enough to come to this change, and it kept moving. You know, I must say one thing, that I came on this campus to check out a master's program, and my son was living with his father, but he visited me quite often, and he asked me, I live in Pasadena, they did not, and when he was with me, he says, mind if I tag along? And when he tagged along, I went to Davison Hall, I don't know if they still have Davison, and he roamed around this campus. It's important for you to realize is that kids have to tag along with you in the most positive places and ways. He went up to Dean McGregor's office and asked him some questions. And Dean McGregor says, you know what, here's my card, get back with me in January. And he did this to my son. He put his arm around my son. And he told him what he needed to do while John was in high school. So while I may have done some things, all I did was roll out the carpet for others to help him as well, by being present and making sure he's present in the right situations. And I did take him to a lot of theater as well. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the panelists, please. Round of applause, round of applause, round of applause. I'm just going to say a few housekeeping before we say goodnight. This is the first night of the celebration. It goes throughout the year. Many speakers, many films, his films as well as television programs. Please spread the word. We want this event to be packed. We want to honor the legacy of this man. Dean Daly, please come on up, say final words. Come on up. From the USC family for putting this together. My Dean.
So welcome.
Well, it's been wonderful to have all of you here. It's wonderful to have you guys. And of course, there's one little piece of information everybody should know about Mr. Price. Not only did he greenlight this film, not only did he lead studios, he was the chairman and creator of the Board of Counselors here at the Cinema School for 25 years. And when you look around this school, much of what we have is thanks to Frank Price.
You're too generous.
You guys have a wonderful evening, and it's so wonderful to hear that some of our freshmen are here tonight, too. And we're going to see you for the next one, right? Everybody will be here? Okay, take care.
Thank you guys so much. Get home.